An association representing automakers is challenging Maine's right to repair law, which went into effect this month. The Alliance for Automotive Innovation today filed a lawsuit in U.S. District Court challenging the state of Maine over enforcement of its data law. The law approved by Maine voters in 2023 allows car owners to send their vehicles' diagnostic information to any independent repair shop, not just dealerships. The lawsuit names Attorney General Aaron Frey as the defendant. The Alliance for Automotive Innovation, which represents automakers such as Ford, Subaru, GM, and others, says the data law is commonly characterized as an effort to guarantee vehicle right to repair in Maine, which they say already exists. In a statement, they said, quote, "This is an example of putting the cart before the horse. Before automakers can comply, the law requires the Attorney General to first establish an independent entity to securely administer access to vehicle data. The independent entity hasn't been established. That's not in dispute. Compliance with the law right now is not possible," unquote. We have a link to the full complaint on our website.